Thank you all very much for coming out this evening. Please welcome to the stage for Kevin Pollak's chat show live from the Coronet. Let me try that again. Thank you very much, Michael. Hey, let's hear it for Michael. Yeah, no, I'm going to need another one. Hey, everybody, thanks for coming out. Let's hear it for Michael. There we go. Please welcome to the stage Jamie Foxx, Samm Levine, and Kevin Pollak. Thank you. Please be seated. We'll wait.
Well, this is exciting.
It's our second show here live from Largo at the Coronet. And, this time we decided to have a rehearsal. And Samm, for some reason, you weren't here for rehearsal.
No, I'm allowed to skip all rehearsals.
Yeah, I saw that in your writer.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to use this opportunity to talk about it.
Absolutely. I'm an open book.
Yeah, I just felt like if we talked about it in private, you could make some sort of excuse. But now in front of witnesses, I feel like maybe this is the better opportunity. So seriously, what the fuck?
Here's the thing. It's better for me if it's fresh.
Fair enough. All right. Always appreciate the truth. So
I'm a straight shooter. I think you know that by now.
Yeah. We want to thank Flanagan and all the folks here at the Largo at the Coronet for inviting us back. We really thought after last time that would not happen. We did our 6th anniversary here, just March, right? Yeah.
Was that this year?
Dear Lord, yes. It was. It was earlier March. Yeah, you can go back through the archives. It's Dana Carvey, Will Forte. I don't want to hear moans that you weren't there that night.
Yeah, it's available to download.
It is literally, and it's all free, as always. We tried giving it away. That didn't work, so we just say it's free. Seems like the same thing. Recent guests also...
That was like a bad Jungle Cruise joke.
Yeah.
But I appreciated it.
Jamie, cough up a couple of those, because you, by this point, have memorized about 17 of them. So give us one. Just give us one.
This table is made out of sandstone, but some people take it for granted.
They're all meant to be that exact reaction. Yeah, it is pun-tastic. The unfairly talented Don Cheadle, recent guest, the quite fairly funny Matt Myra, and actor-director Richard Benjamin made one of my favorite movies, my favorite year. Recent guest, so please check those out. Our next live show from our studio will be Keegan-Michael Key. That'll be December 6th on Sunday. If you ever want to tune in live on the YouTube, I believe it's called.
Yeah, come hang out with me in the chat room. Good.
Yeah, and Al Jean, for Simpsons fans out there. Speaking of which, Sammy...
What is the Simpsons program you speak of? I've never heard of it.
Well, apparently it's a cartoon.
Oh. Is it on television?
I think.
Yeah, I wasn't the only one who skipped rehearsal, guys.
This is me trying to be witty and answer, and Kevin's like, what?
What happened?
This is why I don't This is why I don't speak much. Because you're not even picking up what I'm putting down.
No, I really wasn't. I was too focused on our guest. I really am sort of nervous about this. Maybe we all are. Longtime fans, and you are all too. Obviously, that's why you're here. So, normally we do some catch-ups, some make-em-ups. We talk about how you can write to us at KPCS, fanmail@gmail.com, but there's no reason to do that now, I don't think. You can write to us there and let us know how you do the show, KPCS, fanmail@gmail.com. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you have to. Write a review. I don't give a shit. Maybe you listen on Airwolf. Yeah, part of that whole conglomeration at this point. We always love to hear from you. Samm, anything else you'd like to report? You have some special treat designed, some sort of game of some kind.
Yes, we've not been doing any sort of games for a while, and I
well, the fans wrote in and said, "Please stop."
That's fair of them. I put some work into it, and I think I came up with a pretty fun one tonight.
All right,
so
cool.
If you're not a fan, keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, I should point that out as well. If you have a great time tonight, please come down and support all the live shows here at Largo at the Coronet. Tell everyone you've ever met if you enjoy the show tonight. And if you don't, seriously, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares what you think, and you stink. So, yeah, I think that's all the new and old business.
I'm so excited about this. You have no idea.
Yeah. So, well, they know who's here. So
Yeah,
there's
it was
no sort of special fanfare. Let's just say,
just do it, man.
You think?
Absolutely.
Vince Gilligan, ladies and Jews.
Yeah. For the audio listeners, he is receiving a standing ovation.
I'll tell you. Welcome, sir. This apparently can pick you up from backstage, so you don't have to lean into it, although it has its own gravitational pull. This is show 253. I'm looking at the stats here, and I don't remember being nervous, so fuck, man. Sorry about that. But welcome.
Thank you.
You've just recently got back to town. You've been working back in the is it still the Albuquerque?
We are still shooting in Albuquerque. We're shooting Better Call Saul, our spinoff from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I think you can stop calling it a spinoff. I think it's full blunsies now.
It's I hope. Yeah, you know what? Spinoff is one of those words that people think of as kind of pejorative or whatnot. But I always thought, well, you know, whatever it is its own thing now.
Yeah.
And Bob Odenkirk is just tremendous in it. And Michael McKean, who you had on not too.
We've had them both on.
Yeah, right.
Past
Of course.
guests.
Yes.
And extraordinary. The cast is ridiculous.
It's a great cast. We're lucky to we're lucky to work with so many folks who were known, at least at the start of their careers, primarily for comedy. Because I always say that if you can be funny. I always think comedy, and I say this as someone who's not a performer at all, but watching and enjoying, for instance, what you do and what Bob does and Michael. Michael obviously started off,
Sure.
known to the world as, Lenny and Squiggy. And
right.
If you can be funny, I think you can be dramatic. But if you can be dramatic, you can't necessarily be funny. It doesn't necessarily flow both ways.
It does not.
No.
It really does not. And I wish so many of the dramatic actors and actresses out there would stop trying to be funny.
Did you not see Al Pacino in Jack and Jill? Because, wow.
I did, however, see the last movie, Danny Collins, that Al is in. I don't know if you noticed, but he has to touch something in every moment of everything. How did that happen? Props. Where are the things I need to touch? And Bill Burr, you added. Now, speak of...
Yeah.
Talk about spin-offs, and a lot of the fans of the Breaking Bad first started hearing rumors, and then official rumors, and then, there's going to be a spin-off, and then eventually it's going to be a spin-off of the Saul Goodman character. I think a lot of people said, oh, so it's a sitcom. You're going to do a sitcom with Saul Goodman. And there actually was a rumor that went out there for about 9 minutes that said, maybe. Might be a sitcom. Don't know yet.
Yeah, and we weren't playing with the audience or with the fans or anybody. We honestly, Peter Gould and I, who we also had on as a guest, and he had a wonderful time, by the way. He sends his regards.
All right.
But we would take when we were
Not
finishing.
Not a big fan. Sorry. Some people we have on, I just don't care for them. I don't know how to say it. You've given me the opportunity, and I just seized it, and well, now I'm filled with regret. You were saying?
Well, he's my partner in the show, and he and I, when we were finishing up Breaking Bad and in the editing room for a great many months working on those final 8 episodes, we would take these long walks at lunchtime and say, okay, next show, Better Call Saul, what is it? Is it a half-hour comedy? Because we weren't jerking anybody around. We seriously thought it might be for a while.
Sure.
We thought it might be kind of a Dr. Katz kind of thing where in a weird way, Saul Goodman was the straight man, and we'd have all kinds of interesting folks, maybe a lot of folks from the comedy world come in, and then they would have legal problems.
But what if it been in Squiggle Vision?
That would have been nice.
Squiggle Vision would have been good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bring back Squiggle.
Someone, by the way, out there, please bring back Squiggle Vision. I think it's a dead form of art at this point.
But, we went back and forth, and we finally figured we don't have the first freaking clue how to do a half-hour comedy show. We better stick with what Dance with a Girl That Brung Us, as they
sure.
say.
And again, making your own point. People in drama do not try to do
exactly
straight comedy. All the way through, by the way, of Breaking Bad and now Better Call Saul, there's been tremendous comic relief, brilliantly woven in, and thank you. Was it daunting at some point in regards to doing a full-on, the whole show is supposed to be a comedy?
Well, that's the beauty of this, because that would be daunting. Right. And that would have been daunting if we had done a half-hour comedy.
Yeah.
And if we were in the comedy category. We're not. We're in the drama category. And because Peter and I, we try to be as funny as we can be in the writer's room. We have excellent writers, very talented writers, but we all come from the drama end of things.
Yeah.
And it's very liberating for this to be a drama that can be as funny as we can make it, and certainly we have a big ace in the hole with Bob and Michael and all these other wonderful actors, Ray Seahorn, Patrick Fabian, these guys. Jonathan Banks can be very, very funny.
Jonathan Banks, God bless you for bringing him back.
Yeah, oh man, he's so good. He's very funny.
And the first couple episodes, a lot of spoiler alerts, by the way, people listening in. If these are spoiler alerts, honestly, fuck you. There's no place for you here. The first couple episodes when he's just in the toll booth or the booth, the security booth, the sense is, oh, thank God they brought him back. And then, wait, what? This can't be it.
Yeah. What the hell's he doing in this thing?
And through the research, one of the things, thank you, Jason McIntyre, who may or may not be here. He reserved his right. Oh, there he is. I can tell that laugh does the research for us. One of the things I really loved seeing in there was something you learned, and I want to talk about when this discovery came to you, because it seems like an epiphany. Find a way to take your time telling your stories. Don't puke it all out in the pilot, even though there's pressure from no matter what network you're working for. Who are all these characters and what do they mean to the story and the hero? And where did the wherewithal or courage come from for you? Maybe Breaking Bad was the first.
I got lucky. So much of my career, I can just the quick answer is I got lucky, and I'll tell you how I got lucky in regard to what you just asked.
I really wish you would, because there's a bunch of people staring at us.
We had the writer's strike in 2008, and we were. It was a terrible time for a lot of folks in the audience, probably in the guild and whatnot, and it was a tough time for the business in general. But the silver lining for us was we had a 9-episode order. We were 2/3 of the way through season 1 of Breaking Bad, and I was so nervous. I'd never run a TV show before. The show had not been on the air yet. We were shooting and editing, writing, shooting, editing in a vacuum. No one had seen the show yet, and I really had the feeling that I needed to throw the kitchen sink at it. That the writers and I needed to get every bit of drama. So much so that I don't know if I ever mentioned this publicly or not, but the season 1 ending, the writer's strike came along and we didn't get to do our last 2 episodes. We had to end our season 1 with 7 episodes instead of 9. And our 9th episode that year, we were seriously leaning toward killing off Hank, Walt's brother-in-law, played by Dean Norris, in that first season. And that is a good example of I was ready and willing to throw the kitchen sink at it.
Right.
Because I was afraid we wouldn't be holding people's attention. So I learned a lesson that, the real trick is to keep everybody interested, but to do as little as possible plot-wise
Share
to keep
as little
everyone.
as possible with them.
Because, which sounds kind of stingy, but the thinking behind it, I guess, is that you don't know how long you're going to have.
Right.
You want to parcel out the drama no quicker than you have to, because, conversely, if you throw the kitchen sink at it in the first few episodes, where do you go from there? And, I, as an audience member, I tend to get exhausted if I'm watching a show and it's just like things are happening so quick, I can't sort of, I want to be able to savor them a little bit, so.
Yeah, and also just a show that takes its time, telling a story of an episode, let alone the arc of a season, is just spectacular to me. I don't know if you're watching this show, Fargo.
I've seen the first one. I haven't. And the first one was great. I can't wait to catch up.
Isn't it kind of ridiculous? Yeah. I mean, I'm curious for someone like you who's sort of mastered that storytelling device of let's take our time. Let's not be in a hurry. To watch another show that, in my opinion, is following in that suit of taking its time and being weird and slow as a design technique. What it's like for you to. So when you said you saw the episode of Fargo, was there any sense?
I thought it was great. I love the editing. I'm going to say that no matter what, because Skip McDonald, one of our 2 Emmy-winning editors from Breaking Bad, and now at Better Call Saul, edited it and did a wonderful job. But it was beautifully constructed, beautifully directed and shot. The actors are great. I was busy directing that last episode of Better Call Saul, which we just finished up a week or so ago, and I got to catch up on my viewing. But it's a really solid show. And,
there's just not many shows. Yeah. That's why I thought of it as the only one really that has stood out, because I feel like Breaking Bad, and I think for a lot of people. My ride's here. Shit. For a lot of people, there was this embracing and of not knowing where it was going and loving that you didn't know where it was going. And then by season 2 or 3, starting to catch on, so whoever the bad guys or guy is or are, they have to die in the final episode. So to me, the way you were able to push away all the other possible nominees in the category of greatest writing ever, was halfway through season 4, I believe. Is that the Gus? Jaime, you would know. Yeah. So we know he has to die by the end. Imagine, and I've said this to so many people. Imagine the challenge to the writers. Our core fan audience knows by now that we're going to kill him. How do we kill him in a way that is as surprising and shocking as if they didn't know we have to kill him in the final episode? How do we now create that same surprise and shock in people who absolutely know that it's coming? How the fuck did you do that? I mean, honestly, how long did that alchemy mix before?
It took forever, and I get great writers, and that it was it was a group effort. It was a hive mind. I had these wonderful, wonderful writers, many of whom are going on to create have gone on to create their own excellent shows, and we liked each other's company, so that being in the writers' room, it was a trial, but it wasn't for personal reasons. We liked each other's company, and then we were just tough on each other in the sense of, is that good enough? Is that good enough? And
so do you start with, there are no bad ideas, throw out the shitty ones, let's get to the good ones? Or are people guarded?
No. Well, listen, you can do this job. It's any way you want to do it. There's no one right way to do it. But as for me, the way I prefer to do it, it's got to be a safe room.
Right.
Because I'm a great guy or anything, but selfishly, if the writers in your writers' room don't feel safe, they won't give with the crazy ideas.
Right.
They will shut down. They will be guarded. They will feel foolish if they speak up, and you look at them with a cutting glance, or you just say, "That's just shit. That's just and they will eventually shut down on you. And that and that works in some writers' rooms, but it doesn't work for me. I want them. They always joked. They said I would say, "Oh, that's interesting," and they would laugh and they would say, "That means I hate it." But it didn't actually always mean that. But even sometimes, but some of the ideas that were interesting, quote unquote, led to the really good ideas. And
right.
And it's just.
So if you had to guess, if you had to throw a dart at a number,
mm-hmm.
how many different versions of the demise of Gus filtered through before, and were you developing a couple before you zeroed in on?
Probably not that many for Gus, because I had this image in my head of him getting blown up. We had a card.
Because he's a cartoon.
Well, we had a card. We use 3x5 index cards that we write on with Sharpie pens, with black Sharpies. And that was something I learned from Chris Carter and the writers on X-Files. I just stole whole cloth the way we broke stories on that show. And we did it that way on Breaking Bad and now on Better Call Saul. And we had an index card for months, maybe a year or more, that said ding boom. And we wrote it that way in case we had visitors in the writer's room. They wouldn't know what it meant, but it meant we wanted somehow for Tio, Hector Salamanca, to be the engine, the mechanism for which Gus Fring gets blown up. And then I had that image, I think it was me. By the way, the interesting, and it might not have been, the interesting thing about being in a writer's room is it kind of a hive mind.
Sure.
When it's working right, gets going, and you truly forget whose idea was whose.
Right.
And some of the very best ideas, I can't remember, and it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter at all whose idea it was, because it was all a group effort. So it might have been anyone's idea, but it was the idea of a half a face blown off and him coming out, seeing the good side of his face, and you're thinking, how the hell can this guy still be alive? This is bullshit. And then you come around and you say,
then you don't care that it's bullshit.
But Walter White, the number of ways we thought his story could end, we probably had dozens, if not hundreds.
You must have.
Not so many Gus Fring, but dozens, if not hundreds, of ways Walter White's story could end, including him living, including his whole family dying, and him the only one to survive. His own kind of private hell. We came up with anything and everything. We're just throwing stuff at the wall for months and months on end, as far as that went.
And at some point, you just need to choose.
At some point, you run out the clock, and you need to choose. And you need one thing that helped us was when I finally realized that we didn't necessarily have to be surprising. We just had to be. We didn't have to surprise the audience as much as we had to make them feel like this was inevitable.
And
it
authentic.
was authentic, fitting, and proper an ending. Sometimes the best ending is the one that you do see coming. So.
Yeah. Before we drift away from Gus, Jaime, you might have had something.
I just wanted to thank him, and I'm sure the audience will agree, for creating the greatest television villain of all time.
You're here.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and before if the actor again, please, that played Tio.
Tio is Mark Margolis.
Right. So what was that first conversation with Mark? Maybe it was a little bit in stage direction, but there must have been a conversation. Look, I just need you to sit in the chair and hit the bell. And while you're doing that, you need to be menacing, and people need to be afraid of you.
Mark Margolis would be a great guest in your show.
Yes, he would. Please make that happen.
He is. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great.
He lives in New York, but when he's out here, absolutely, he is the most wonderful guy. He will, for a guy who sits in a chair and dings a bell, what he's mostly known for, he will talk your fucking ear off.
Great.
How
did you shut him up, by the way?
He is so gregarious. He is so sweet and so much fun. He'll tell you stories about being in a porn movie back in the 70s.
Oh, man, this has got to happen.
The opening of Misty Beethoven. He did not have a sex scene, but he was in the movie. He'll tell you about working with. He was in Scarface. He was.
Yes, he
got shot in the head by Pacino.
Yeah.
And
let's wait till we have him on. Listen.
Yeah. You know what? I shouldn't even have said that because I don't want to give any good stories away. But because he's great. Yeah.
His brilliance of being menacing and that last look, when he does have that ding boom.
Yeah.
Is just beyond spectacular.
He was. You know what? I didn't have that conversation with him. Our excellent casting, Los Angeles casting associates, Sharon Bialy and Sherry Thomas.
Sharon. Yeah.
They're wonderful ladies. They found him. I mean, I certainly knew of him. They also found Giancarlo Esposito, who obviously we all knew. It's interesting when we're in the X-Files, we would sit in auditions with the actors, watch them live, sitting across from them. That has gone away in recent years. That we pretty much you just run out of time, and so now we watch auditions on the computer, a little screen on the computer. And I know actors must hate that.
Oh, we love it.
Yeah.
It's rightly
really
so.
great for us.
Picturing you have a sandwich, maybe some soup.
It's
barely even looking up at the screen.
It's unfortunate. It's one of those things. Technology is amazing, but it's one of those unfortunate byproducts.
For sure.
But when these guys came up on this tiny little screen on the computer, it's like, oh my God, it's Giancarlo Esposito. He seriously read for this thing? Oh my God, it's Mark Margolis. He's going to sit in a chair and just ding with his finger. And there were a couple actors, Sharon and Sherry, were thinking of, who said, screw this, I'm not doing a part where I sit in a wheelchair and ding a bell. But to his credit, Mark was like, acting is acting. It's coming out of all of your pores, whether you're talking or not. You know, he saw it that way always from the start.
And have it become one of the more memorable, not only performances for him, but performances from the entire run of the show. I mean, it was iconic.
It was iconic, and did we see that coming? We didn't. We did not plan for that character to appear in any episode past that first one.
Right.
But
when he comes back, it's right.
But he was so good,
yeah.
And he was so much fun to work with. He's such a sweet guy and a pleasure to hang around with. He was the whole package that we said we gotta write more parts. We gotta write more for this character to do.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Jaime, what was the other? There was another. Follow up with another character favorite of yours, maybe?
I just want to thank him for introducing me. I don't know if anyone to Jesse Plemons, and because of him, he will forever be known to me as Meth Damon.
Meth Damon. Meth Damon.
Are you familiar with this?
I am. I wish
moniker?
I'd come up with it. Meth Damon is great.
Someone on social media or the interwebs.
I don't know. I don't remember where it originated, but now, I watch Fargo and I'm like, Meth Damon's coming.
Meth Damon. Yeah.
Well,
Bridge of Spies. Ooh, Meth Damon's in this.
Well, we knew him from
that's who he is.
Friday Night Lights, which was such a great show. He was he is a good actor. Mm-hmm. He is, and I was it was so funny. He came up to me one of the first episodes he was doing on the show, and he said, "So am I just batshit crazy, my character, or what's the story? Because I seem kind of likable, and yet I'm going to shoot a kid in the head." And I said, "Well, you're a different kind of." Kinder, gentler kind of psychopath. That was so much fun writing for him because everybody hated that character because he was so scary and so bloodless, and yet he wasn't a mustache twirler. He didn't seem to enjoy. He just had a screw loose. The character, not the actor. The actor's a wonderful, well-adjusted guy, but he was so. It was so much fun writing for him because he was like, he just did what he had to do. He didn't get any pleasure out of hurting people. He brought Jesse ice cream toward the end. You know? Even when Jesse was down in that spider hole or whatever they had him living in. So
the shark guy sociopath, that sort of dead doll-eye effect when the actual crime. There's no connection to outcome or repercussion or consequences.
Yeah.
That is. Not as easy as it looks.
No.
So when it's done correctly,
he's such a wonderful actor.
He gets kudos.
It's weird how it's like the crazy guy, the Charles Manson type who just enjoys hurting people and gets pleasure out of sadism. Is we've all seen that, but just this character who was like, I didn't want to do it, but I had a job to do. I had to shoot the kid. I'm sorry, but what's for dinner? He's just one of these. It was fascinating. It was fascinating to write for him, and he's such a good actor.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it during the X-File days, the casting process, because the amount of known as well as soon-to-be insanely known actors that came through. How aware are you? Is it sort of, Jesus, people just keep coming up to fucking Vancouver. This is amazing.
Oh yeah. That was, God, what a great job that was. And I am so bummed I can't be a part of. I couldn't be. I think it's shot now, but I couldn't be a part of the 6 episode reboot that Chris Carter and the guys are doing. What a great job that was. I learned everything I know about producing TV from that X-Files job, and all these amazing actors coming through. And the most important one to me personally, goes without saying, Bryan Cranston.
Yeah,
because I met him on X-Files. So, yeah.
Well, Vince, I'm sorry, real quick. Could you just let us know everything that you learned about producing? Just real quick.
When we had Bryan on, he spoke about the oddity of getting this call after doing, was it one episode?
He did one episode. It was the first episode to shoot of season 6 of X-Files, which means it was the first episode shot in Southern California. We had moved down after 5 years in Vancouver. First episode, I believe, to shoot in Southern California, although it was second or third to air that season. And he did this one episode, was him stuck in a car.
Yeah.
And for the whole episode with Agent Mulder, with David Duchovny. And he was so damn good, I never forgot him. I was like, I got to work with this guy again.
Right. Well, certainly those of us who knew his work and certainly loved him on Malcolm in the Middle thought, someone's got to put him in a drama. This is ridiculous.
See, I would have said that. No, I know. I would have said the same thing, except I had the benefit. This episode of X-Files was a year and a half before Malcolm went on the air, and it was nothing but dramatic. I mean, it had a couple of quasi-funny little moments in it that he got to play, but he was just really scary, dramatic actor, dramatic part. Right. And then...
then he becomes the goofball dad.
I had the opposite reaction everyone else did. A year and a half later, I'm watching TV, and an ad for this new show called Malcolm in the Middle comes on, and I'm watching, and I see a guy in his underpants, and he's roller skating, and I was like... And he was clean shaven, because when I knew him on the show, on the X-Files, he had long hair and he had a beard, mustache, and I was like, that guy looks vaguely familiar. It might not even been the first time I saw the commercial, maybe the second time. I was like, oh my God, that's the guy from my episode. I didn't know he could be funny. And I think I literally said that out loud to nobody, just in a room by myself. Yeah. I had the opposite reaction that most folks did to him.
Did you also think or say out loud, please be honest, someday I'm going to write a scene where he's back in that underwear?
I hate to admit it, because I liked Malcolm in the Middle a lot. It was a good show, but I can't honestly sit here and say I saw every episode. But obviously, I think it was in one of the first ones he was wearing his underpants. I had somehow that had slipped my mind. And when he was seriously thinking about doing the part of Breaking Bad, he said, well, I'm kind of known for the tighty whities. And I was like, oh, crap, of course you are. And I felt guilty. I don't know where that had slipped to, but I said, well, should we be doing this? Should we? And I think he's told this story recently, or probably several times. His initial thought was, I probably should be in boxers or something like that. But then he thought long and hard about it, and he said, it's more pathetic, tighty whities, and with the love handles, the muffin top, and
it certainly was.
So he said, well, the hell, that show is that show, and this show is this show, but tidy whities are forever. So let's just stick with them. So.
Yeah. Turns out research suggested maybe not the same demographic. Maybe we're okay. We have questions coming in from all over the world, really. And by that, of course, I mean the World Wide Web, as well as some folks here. I'm going to hog a great deal of the questions, but I do want the audience to know that we will get to some of yours. Let's talk a little bit about, Brian spoke of your suggestion to AMC after you had sold the pilot, that it star Brian, was not an immediate yes from them because of his fame and success as the goofball dad, the aforementioned.
Yeah.
And Brian just would not shut up about your going to bat for him. Your memory is probably not, it wasn't as hard.
I don't want to, Brian is such a better storyteller than I am, and I don't want to mess up what was probably a much better story than the one I'll tell.
It's not a competition.
But I'm glad it's not.
Plus we can just roll him over this.
Yeah. But it's true that AMC was reluctant. I don't remember it being that big a fight. Sony was very much, I think they immediately saw the possibility of Malcolm in the meth lab, and they thought, oh, this will sell itself. Sony was into it. Also, they had a deal with him, not just as an actor, but I think they were talking to him seriously about directing and whatnot. They loved him. They knew him. AMC didn't know him as well, and he is correct. I mean, they were resistant at first. But I don't remember it as a big fight. I certainly said to them, this is the guy I had in mind when I wrote this thing. And they said, yeah, but Malcolm in the Middle. And I sent them a DVD of that episode of X-Files. I said, this is a guy I know. And my memory is that they watched it and they said, oh, okay, all right. I don't remember a big fight after they watched that episode.
Sure.
But it is true that initially there was some pushback. They said he's kind of the goofy guy in the underpants and the rollerblades.
So in terms of casting the rest, so the Well, let's start with Aaron. What was that process?
That process was an exciting process. One of the last times I did actually we did it again on Better Call Saul, but sitting in a room with actors and enjoying their company and enjoying talking to them.
Yeah, nice to see you again, Vince.
I know. This young man could speak to this. This young man came in and I think I talked to you at great length about how much I love Freaks and Geeks, one of the greatest TV shows in the history of television.
Thank you very, very much.
This guy is so damn good on it.
Oh my God, thank you.
And now
Fat lot of good it did me, folks.
and you were great, and you did. We were so blessed with these amazing actors like Samm. We saw a whole bunch. No, but I'm serious. We saw so many great people, and it was tough because we saw all these wonderful actors for all these roles. And speaking of the role of Jesse Pinkman, we saw these great actors. And Aaron Paul came in, and I always, when I'm sitting there talking to folks, I'm always painfully aware of the fact that I couldn't do what you guys are doing. I'm not, I can't, and I'm always thinking, God, I'm sitting here in judgment of these guys who I couldn't even begin to do what they do. And the least I can do is pay attention and look them in the eye and talk a little bit. I realize sometimes I talk too much at the beginning of these things because some of these folks come in and they're ready to go, and I'm like, hey, so you worked on, Short Circuit 2, and you did the, and tell me about the robot in that, and, was that like, and they're like, what the hell? And they're just ready to go, and it's just, so I
And you just want to know about the robot.
well, I just, whatever. I just like,
So Michael McKean wasn't just a straight offer? You had a little banter with him in the room? Yeah, that's right. He's in that, folks.
So, anyway, Aaron Paul came in, and I'm looking through because I'm always wanting to put people at ease and probably talking too much. And I'm like, oh, you're in the X-Files. Wait a minute, you're in the X-Files. And I didn't realize my buddy Tom Schnauz, who is now an executive producer in Better Call Saul, was a co-exec, I guess, or exec on Breaking Bad. One of our best writers, producers, directors, had written an episode of the X-Files that starred or co-starred Aaron. Jane Lynch was in it too.
Oh yeah.
And but Aaron was playing a kind of a mean Johnny Knoxville type. It was based kind of on Jackass, the character, but I met Johnny Knoxville. He's a good guy. This was like the asshole version. And I was like, oh man, you were in this episode. And he was like, and then he read, and he was just, he was just the right guy for the role. And
Was it that immediate?
It kind of was. It was one of those things where you see somebody. Actually, the most immediate guy of all probably was Dean Norris.
Yeah.
He came in, and we had read all these wonderful actors who were very good, but somehow he got that it was okay to be funny. Some of the other wonderful actors who came in thought it needed to be played a little more serious, and he kind of rolled with it, knew it could be funny, knew the character could be a bit of an oaf, a bit of a hail fellow well met, and have fun with it. And I think halfway through his read, I was like, that's the guy for the part of Hank. I think for Aaron, he might have left the room and we might all talk to each other and, wow, that guy's really a contender for this. And
How much do you picture when you're writing and creating these characters? Are there prototypes in your mind, or do you know better than to?
It
varies.
It varies. Sometimes you're thinking of an actor. Sometimes you're picturing an actor you can't get. Sometimes you're picturing Humphrey Bogart or Jimmy Cagney or something.
Yeah, you don't want to picture the dead guys.
But
I mean, if I can impart anything.
Yeah, that's
today.
that's word to the wise.
Stay
folks.
away from the
Stay
dead
away
actors.
from the dead actors.
Because their agents will just say they're not available.
You know what?
Very old joke. I'm sorry. That goes back to the 40s.
You know what? Though we're making this joke. Cut to 5, 10, 15 years from now, and you and I both are like, they've got some software where you can bring these people back.
Sure.
And you can, so
Is Tupac still on tour?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
They already have that software, by the way.
Yeah.
I guess they do. I'm behind the times, but they're.
It's
I tried this virtual reality, by the way. Sony's got they got the Oculus Rift. That's a different company, but my bosses at Sony took me to this up to Monterey and showed me the virtual reality. And that's like, it's going to change the world. That stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
I have to admit though, I threw up.
Oh.
I did. It was too much reality. It was amazing, but I'd put it on again right now.
That's a quote, by the way. Too much reality.
It was too much reality, but it was astounding. It's going to blow people's minds. It's going to change storytelling. I don't know
I
if it
have
will or
to
not.
admit, I threw up.
But I mean that
honestly,
yeah.
this is the sort of thing I hope to get from the guests of the chat show. That sort of honesty, and then immediately I just want to embrace you and say you didn't have to say that. Didn't have to tell
I didn't actually
anyone
feel
you threw
that. I
up.
didn't feel that embarrassed about it. I made it to the men's room at least. It was. It wasn't like right into the helmet or whatever. That would have been. That would have
That's
been.
what we all
embarrassing.
It could have been bad clams. You don't know.
Didn't you wrestle in the 70s under that name, Sam?
You know I did.
Bad clams.
Bad claims. From the audience, why do we still care about Walt even after all his misdeeds? Well, there you have it. I mean, that's at the center and the core of the creation of this chemistry teacher who, in some of the research, you really, and in hindsight, you actually said, I might have overplayed the effort to get the audience to empathize with him before I launched what I had in mind on them, what Walt would become in that first episode.
Yeah, early on, I probably spackled it on a little thick. That was the only episode I ever wrote by myself. From then on, it was a team effort. But that first one, that pilot, before we had a writer's room, before we had a pickup, I probably, in hindsight, spackled it on a little thick that you should like this guy, you should feel sorry for this guy. But that's an excellent question, and I wish I had a great answer. I don't know any better than you folks. My best guess, though, and it's probably a pretty good guess, is Bryan Cranston. I mean, if there's a lot of wonderful actors who could have played the menace in that part, could have played the humor even. Just that humanity he always managed to put across. Yeah. He was always sympathizable or empathizable. What's the difference between those two words? I'm not sure. But you always knew he was a human being. He wasn't a monster. You didn't always. I didn't. I'll speak for myself. I actually lost sympathy for Walter White long before a lot of our viewers did. But he always remained interesting to me, even when I didn't like what he was doing, even when I thought he was being terribly selfish and destroying his family. But why people still root for him, it's a fascinating question. I wish I had a great answer for, but a lot of it was
I think
Bryan.
it's a tribute to what you accomplished in the show through the writing and the acting of that character, without question. How it is the great conundrum how you all were able to pull off sort of lightning in a bottle in terms of why we stayed with him all the way. Even when, as you say, you turn before the audience, even for the audience who turns, you're never really rooting against him, even when you know what he's done is reprehensible, or however you pronounce that word in English.
Yeah. That was it.
I find it helpful to lower the volume of your voice when you suddenly have a brain fart, forget how to pronounce a word. Because what happens with the audience is you want them. You designed it for us. I think maybe the invention of Heisenberg that I want to get to, where you, it seemed by design, are challenging the audience's connection to what once was Walt. And is he redeemable now? How is he redeemable?
Yeah.
What was some of the parts of the invention of Heisenberg? When does that come into the design? Was that from breaking stories for that particular season? Was it in the making from early on?
I mean, the one thing we knew from the get-go, the one thing I pitched, and it's good to have I learned this, and folks in the audience who happen to be fans are literally, balloons should drop. They've heard this 100,000 times, the expression, taking Mr. Chips and turning him into Scarface. But that was the pithy quote.
You can have a one-liner like that, but you still need to fill in a shit ton of blanks.
You know what? It was great to have that roadmap, though. It was great. And it wasn't much more of a roadmap other than I'm starting in New York City and I want to drive to Los Angeles. You know, a good route to take might be drop down south to Tennessee and then take the 40 across. Or maybe there's 100 other ways to get across the country. But it's knowing point A and knowing point Z was helpful from the get-go. That really was helpful. Having said that, we were inventing how far do we go this episode? How far
That's
do we
right.
take them? Do we backstep them a little? Do we
Yeah.
take them over here? But we got to get to California eventually. But knowing the
And
ultimate
also
destination.
maintaining the heart and the soul of a character that they did not bother doing in Scarface. He became a caricature. And there was something about whether it was the menacing Heisenberg or whether it was the
Yeah.
heartbroken Walter White for still holding on to any part of a family.
Well, it's so much tougher, by the way, to do. That's what I love about television. There's no way in a 2 hour. Well, Scarface maybe 2 hour and a half, 2.5, 2:45. There's no way though you can.
241, I believe.
241.
Samm, you looked that up?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
I don't think there's any way you can. That's what I love about TV. We had 62 episodes. We had 47, 40 some, 8, whatever. We had a lot of hours to do that you don't get to do in a movie. And I love movies, but that's what I love about TV is you get to go, you get to dive deep. And I love Scarface. But yeah, it ultimately wound up different. I keep saying he turned into Scarface, and he did, but he didn't. I mean, he really was a different guy, a different creature. Yeah.
Completely. Sammy?
I have a question that it's a real one. The Walter White, Walt Whitman WW similarity, was that something conceived early, or was that a happy accident that occurred to you guys later?
One of the things I'm proudest of is how many happy accidents we took full advantage of. The Walt Whitman, the whole Walt Whitman of it first appeared in an episode in which we introduced the character of Gail Bedecker, played by a wonderful actor, David Costabile. And at a certain point, we had to show, he basically came into the show as the anti-Jesse. That's how Woody existed for, logistically speaking. He was Walt's new meth cooking partner, but he was everything Jesse was not. He was an equal chemist, almost, to Walt. He was college, beyond college educated. And at one point we thought, well, let's have him quote a little Walt Whitman. Because that's pretty much the last thing, if you gave him 100 million years, that Jesse Pinkman would ever done. And I remembered this poem when I heard The Learned Astronomer, which I used to be able to pretty much, I can't anymore, but I was quoting it in the room, or part of it, as much as I could remember. And I said, what if he just spun this off the top of his head? And then later on, we realized Walt Whitman, WW, Walter White, but we weren't thinking of that at the time. But that's sort of the process, the thing in a way the writers and I were kind of most proud of, is we would sit there and, bang our head against the table, figuratively speaking, and just hours on end, like what have we done in the past, in a past episode that we could bring back now? And that was one of those moments, WW, Walter White, Walt Whitman,
Part of the show here is to offer up a new segment called the Famous Questions. These are not questions that are from history. These are questions from famous people.
Okay.
They have designed their questions specifically for you
Okay.
because I asked them to.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to tell you who wrote each question.
Okay.
That'll be on you to figure out.
Okay.
Would like you to take a guess if you can.
Okay.
All right.
Are there famous people that I know personally, or?
I feel like that's cheating if I tell you.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yes, of course you know them.
Oh,
personally.
okay, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
They're asking questions that maybe you can only answer.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
I just want to let you know I got a last minute one too, a famous question.
Oh, good. All right. We're going to go to that one third.
Okay.
Yeah, just to let you know. Little build up. Okay. If you could move all of show business to another place, where would that be? Other planets are perfectly acceptable as answers, but scientific data must be cited regarding terraforming and transportation.
Wow. Was it Elon Musk?
No, it's not. You can answer the question first, and then
I
take
don't know
some
that
time.
I can, but
If you
I
could move all of show business to
all of
another
show
place, where would
business,
it be? Please don't say Albuquerque.
Albuquerque's a nice place to. Well, we have enjoyed. All of show business to another place.
I've worked in Albuquerque.
Yeah?
You should defend it. It's fantastic. But
Yeah.
please don't move show business
No,
there.
no. Well, see, now that you say that, I
Yeah.
think I'm primed to anything I say, you're going to be disappointed in me. If I move it anywhere but here, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Northern California.
I have-
This is
Okay,
the
all
last
right.
fucking
I
place.
have an
I
idea.
wanna
I have a suggestion. I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Sam is
Hawaii's
throwing
nice.
out a little help.
Yeah, because it's too easily accessible here in California now.
Right.
Okay.
You know, everyone in the 48 states, they just wander over here. Hawaii, you got to make a plan to get there.
Very hard to
Okay,
get
yeah.
turnip trucks onto the island.
That's a good point. Now, I've always wanted to shoot in my home state of Virginia. That's my default, I guess, would be. I don't know that I'd move all of show business there, but the infrastructure is not there.
That was
so
from Michael-
terraforming and whatnot. I don't,
That was from Michael McKean.
You know what? I would have guessed him after Elon Musk. I'm sorry I didn't say Michael McKean.
Fair enough. This next one I will allow you a little more time to guess.
Okay.
Do you think people ever act out of character in real life? And then there's a follow-up question. Do you think people ever act out of character in real life?
Shit. I'm not going to get any of these. Do I people act out of character in real life? Is that Brian? No.
No.
Is that? Did I just go through everybody I know, every famous person? Out of character in real
There's this
life.
follow-up question. Is Walter White really, that second one all caps, dead?
Is this Norm Macdonald?
No, it's Colonel Sanders. Wait. That's Bob Odenkirk.
Is it really?
It's Bob Odenkirk.
Shit.
He's trying to throw you off the scent.
Wow. Walter White, you know what? I always say this, and I always sound like I'm just being like okey doke, I always say to people, Walter White is yours now as much as he is mine. So if you think he's still alive, have at it. But my personal, because I got this question just recently. I got it, where did I get it? Anyway, I've gotten it a lot, and it's, yes, Walter White, I think what happened at the end of that last episode is exactly what happened. He died on the floor of that meth lab at that Nazi compound. Having patted his precious, one last time and then fallen dead. But people can interpret it any way they want. As far as people acting out of character, yeah, people act out of character all the time through the magic of alcohol and other substances. So, yeah, I think,
There you go.
yeah.
All right. Question 3, Jamie?
Yes. Vince is a big comedy fan. What makes him laugh? What specifically about a scene or story that makes him laugh? Fart jokes or human tragedy?
Both, actually. I like fart joke. Good fart joke's good. I still like the Three Stooges. I still like Benny Hill. But then, I love Mr. Show. And by the way, with Bob and David, I love that.
The
It
new
was
show.
awesome.
So
It was
great.
awesome. I mean, I know it seems like I'm contractually required to say that, but it really is true. That is one thing I have.
You already
said.
made
I
it
just
clear you
love
didn't
it.
really watch Malcolm in the Middle, so you're fine. We know you're speaking from the heart.
What kind of humor? I mean, God, Dr. Strangelove. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just as brilliant as it gets. I could watch that. If you told me I had to watch that once a month for the rest of my life, I'd be like, okay, all right, I'll carve out the time. I mean,
Also from one of the actors that he's worked with? That question?
Yes.
Yes. Take a stab.
okay, what kind of humor do I? Oh, crap. Well, was that Brian?
Nope.
Well,
No, this was Matt Jones.
Mr. Matt Jones.
oh, Matt Jones. I love Matt Jones.
Badger. Badger to block.
Yeah.
Boy, we better have a question from Bryan Cranston, huh?
I am.
We'll have dropped the ball
I just
without
suck
it.
Yeah.
at. I suck at answering questions.
No, it's important to us that you don't get it right.
Okay.
Just so
okay.
you know.
All right. Okay. Well, good. I'll help you out there. Yeah.
2 left. Hopefully one of them's from Bryan Cranston. Vince, I have followed Bryan Cranston's career my whole life. Yes, he's funny and talented, incredibly handsome, and so sexy. But how did you know that casting him was the perfect choice for Walter White? Did I mention sexy?
It's not fair you gave Michael McKean 2 bites at the apple.
Spot on. Yeah, please
What
don't,
was the- what was the
please don't
question?
answer the question. It was just Brian's way of letting you know he'd written a question. Something in there about how did you know he was a perfect casting, which I believe you have answered.
Yeah, I mean, I had worked with him. You know something, by the way? He recently we were at the Smithsonian last week, which was astounding. We delivered props from Breaking Bad to the Smithsonian National Museum of American History.
So great.
Just mind blowing.
So great.
It was awesome. Yay for the Smithsonian. It was awesome. But he's telling a story up there, and he's telling a story about how he met me, and he said, I worked on this episode of the X-Files, and then a few years later they said, Vince Gilligan would like to meet you for this new role in this new show. You remember him, of course. He said, no, I don't remember him at all. And he didn't. He had no memory. But I felt so bad on this episode of X-Files. He had to lie on a piping hot asphalt stretch of asphalt road out in Saugus. At the beginning of this episode, these cops pull him over and they wrestle him to the ground, and the asphalt out there in the desert, it was like 150 degrees, and he's getting all burned up, and he's screaming, no, no, and he's, practically going to, dislocate his shoulder. And I felt so bad that the director, Rob Bowman, and I pulled some money together and bought like a $400 some sort of box seat or something to some Dodger game. And I was like, because we had heard he was a baseball fan. This was back in like 1999. And I was like, I've never actually asked him, did you ever get that ticket? Because I was like, shit, man, you should remember me. I bought you a $400 ticket to a baseball game.
And he never said thank you, clearly.
Yeah, and then I hear it's Smithsonian in front of the curator of the National Museum. Yeah, I don't remember that. I didn't remember this guy, but luckily I read the script and I liked it. Well, screw you, man.
It's a hell of a time to find out.
He's a great guy. I was lucky to know.
Okay, and there was one last part of the Michael McCain question. Now I see I left out. Sorry. Also, ask Vince where he's sending my checks. I ain't running a charity here. Just want to make sure he got that laugh. Vince, last question, famous question.
Okay.
Do you remember David Duchovny's reaction to you wanting to shoot on a Saturday in downtown Los Angeles? If so, he'd like to apologize.
Who wrote that, Kev?
Don't know. No idea. Anonymous, sorry. And unanimous.
Was that wasn't David? That was,
Yes, it was.
It was?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes, he's really, really sorry.
No, that was Michelle McLaren, was it?
Nope.
It was David?
It was.
Shit.
I want to thank our very own Wayne Fetterman, somewhere in the audience, who got to David just in time. It was an hour or so before we went on.
Wow.
Yeah. I think Jaime said, what about
David
Duchovny?
is a great guy. I learned so much from him and from Jillian. They were...
Especially that he doesn't like to work on Saturday morning.
Well, no, you know what? Those guys, they work so damn hard. They worked like Sony with us. We have to stop at 12 or 13 hours or something. Back then, back in those days with Fox, and it wasn't just Fox. A lot of places were doing that. But these guys would regularly work 14, 15, 16 hours, and they were in pretty much every scene. And he was just exhausted. And I was asking him to. It was the first episode I ever directed, and I was asking him to shoot. It wasn't a Saturday morning. I think it was a Sunday morning at like 6 a.m. down in downtown L.A. because we had to make it look like the whole earth had been depopulated. And he had to be walking down the street. And he very rightly, he got there at 6 a.m., and then he rightly, I don't blame him a bit. He took me into his trailer, and he read me the riot act, and he said, you were, actually, and he didn't raise his voice ever, but he was very well-spoken and very, and I'm not just saying this because he might hear this. He really, he said, look, you're a director on this thing, and I get that's the first thing you've ever directed, and I know you're excited, but you're also a producer. And, I'm like drowning here. And we're working 14, 15, 16 hours a day, and we live for these weekends. It's the only thing that keeps us alive at this point late in the season. And we're doing 24 of these things in a year. As a producer, you gotta, make sure I'm not going to wind up dead here, from overwork. And he had a very valid point. But the thing I'll say is, a lot of these guys, because he was, I mean, a lot of these stars and TV shows, he wouldn't have gotten mad about it. He would have a lot of them would have just said, I'm not showing up. To hell with him. So he really rose to the occasion. He was wonderful in that episode. He was wonderful in all 202 of them. And so God bless him for he does not need to worry about that at all.
Do you happen to remember what year that was?
That was an episode called Je Souhaite. I can't probably pronouncing it terribly. It's French, means I wish, and it was crap. When was it? It was.
You'd moved to LA by then. So
it was
towards the end.
It was 2000, 2001. It was. It was maybe season 7 out of 9. I think it was season 7. So 2000 maybe.
If memory serves, they were making a reasonable amount of money.
You know what?
To be tired on a Sunday.
I know. I got to tell you though. Yeah, they were making a shit ton of money, but
making $1 million.
But you can't spend it when you're dead. I mean, I'm not just covering for the guy. They were working. They were working their butts off, and no amount of money. I mean, you can't spend it if you're in an iron lung somewhere.
Well, I think
you said.
I think you said it best. Also, that he said, as a producer, you want me healthy.
Yeah, he made a good point. He was right.
And it stayed with you, and clearly, it's just great that it stayed with him enough to want to.
I'm fascinated.
To want to actually make a joke out of it, but also, I think that's kind of amazing and speaks, quite frankly, to his character. Because I too worry that he might be listening. But
he's a good guy, and I gotta repeat again. I'm so sorry I couldn't be a part of this new 6. I can't wait to see them. Chris Carter. Took me to lunch one day 6-8 months ago, and he said, you want to write one, you want to direct one, and I was like, oh crap. Because we were deep in the middle of season 2 of Better Call Saul, and I knew I couldn't get away. And I can't explain just how great a job the X-Files was. It was fantastic. I wouldn't be sitting here now. No. You would have never heard of me if not for the X-Files, if not for what I learned on that show. It was like being paid to go to film school. Paid a lot, and it was great. And I will never.
Cranston could have never forgotten about you if you hadn't worked on the X-Files.
All right.
As long as we're talking like David Duchovny is listening, I just want to say, Mr. Duchovny, I'm really sorry about what I said. Now that I think about it, there is no price you can put on your own health and well-being, and I love doing the Larry Sanders Show. Okay, we're good.
If there's anyone in the history of show business who has never complained about anything to do with work, it is Samm Levine.
No. That's true. And the number one complaint
my eyes
is
just wrapped to the back of my head.
How come I'm not making $1 million an episode yet?
Yeah. There were moments in the life of Walter White where we were talking about the audience rooting for him and empathizing. And when are you challenging them? Those moments when he becomes a murderer, those moments when he's poisoning a kid. And then the argument was sort of made in the research about Jesse's inability to kill. And I was curious about, in the design, how early on that it might have struck you that Walt was far better suited, ultimately, to a life of crime, that Jesse, in fact, was not.
Well, I've told this story before, but with Jesse, we were planning on killing him off. I mean, I mentioned the thing about killing off Dean Norris's character, but it was the plan when I was writing the first episode that the character of Jesse Pinkman would get killed off very quickly. Maybe at the end of season 1, or maybe somewhere in the middle of season 1. But that idea went away very quickly once we cast Aaron Paul. But the original plan was for him to be this little skis bag who got Walt into this life of crime, or rather, no, Walt got himself into it, but Jesse was kind of his conduit, his guide, if you will. And then once, having served his very kind of meat and potatoes logistical purpose, we could kill him off, and that would be fuel.
Yeah, he almost helps with the exposition of Walt's journey. How do you go from, you can, obviously, Walt knows the technical side.
Oh, yeah. But how do you, once you have a big bag of meth, to sell, who do you sell it to?
Right.
Without getting caught by the cops, without getting ripped
Someone
off.
has to show him the ropes.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the design of the Jesse character.
And I really thought
be-
exactly, and I thought the ropes somehow in my naivete early on there, I thought the ropes would come quicker. And then I realized later, with the help of the writers, once we had a writer's room, the ropes are, and his inability to learn them quickly is the show. I for some reason early on I was like, yeah, well, we'll spend 4 or 5 episodes having him learn how to sell dope, and then suddenly, he'll be working his way up to being a kingpin. And seeing all the 1 step forward, 2 steps back process of this, the groping toward kingpinhood, was the show, and it really became kind of a two-hander, and Jesse really became kind of the moral center. I mean, there were several moral centers to the show, but in the criminal world, Jesse was the moral center, and yet
It was unbelievably refreshing for the reversal of that, by the way, and made you care so much about Jesse, a character who you have no reason to care about when you meet him. That was the amazing evolution of that character as well.
well, and
The point of getting Jesse to have to pull a trigger.
yeah.
I'd love to know anything you want to share about the sort of design within that season. This is what needs to happen.
It was that one, I forget so much of the details. It all kind of fades into the mist now. But as my recollection is that came fairly late in the game, in I believe it was season 3. The season 3 ended with him shooting Gail Bedecker in the face, and he did it. He didn't want to do it, and he had tears in his eyes when he did it. But he did it for his partner. He did it to save his partner, and he was put in this absolutely untenable position by his partner, who he should have never listened to in the first place. And that was one of the tragedies of that character. He went with his partner. He was loyal to a fault, and lost a big chunk of his soul and his in the process, doing saving Walter White. And that was fairly late in the game. We were always writing toward the big ending. One of the things I learned from the X-Files was, and it has a tendency to go away nowadays with different platforms, different delivery methods for television. We don't have commercial breaks like we used to, and I, like most of you, think that's a great thing, except for there's one thing that network television has given us historically, which I think is a good thing and shouldn't necessarily go away completely, which is you got to give folks a reason to keep watching. And on the X-Files, we had to. Chris taught us. All the writers there taught me. You gotta have a reason to sit through the commercial break, and we still do that now. And I'm kind of in that sense, I kind of like being on commercial television because it gives us a reason to do that. Whereas if you're writing for a pay cable network or a Netflix or whatnot, wonderful shows on all those platforms, but they are no longer under any obligation to have those little peaks and valleys as much. I mean, it's just good drama to have them, but they are under no physical or fiduciary obligation to have them to keep people watching every 10 or 12 minutes or whatever. But I think that's good. It's good discipline for a writer, and so we were always writing to keep people watching during the commercials. We were always writing to keep people watching after the season ender. So we're always heading for the big season ender. So all of that to say, gee, what's a big season ender? What would be very dramatic? Going out and seeing Jesse Pinkman shoot some poor guy who doesn't deserve it in the face. Did he really do that? Did he not? I can't believe he ended on a black frame and a gunshot. We were always looking for those kind of moments. And that's just old school network television, demands.
I'd never heard it articulated like that in terms of a style of writing that is very strict to those rules of rising up to act breaks. And
it helps. I mean, it's still a good thing, and you can still do it. There's no reason you can't do it even if you're writing for Netflix or HBO or whatnot. There's no reason you can't. I don't think that folks, when folks get to those places, they feel, and rightly so, wow, this is now all the handcuffs are off, all the strictures are off, and now I can do it in a way that's more artful and whatnot, and that is great to have those kind of freedoms. But sometimes, certain certain things that have gotten us, through 100 years or more of filmed entertainment. Some of these old things, don't want to throw all the babies out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Maybe. So.
Thank you all again for writing, those of you who wrote questions, and thanks to Samm and Jaime for going through them and then deciding which ones to forward to me. I think you've made the decision that I read this one, and I couldn't agree more. This is from Jason. What time tomorrow, Vince, can you take a meeting? Jason's left his phone number.
No, I think that was for me.
Oh.
Actually. Yeah.
Sorry. No, good on you, Jason.
Well done.
Yeah, well done indeed. I read it, and that's really as far as it's going. That was a very funny joke, Jason. Thank you. Hilarious, in fact. Is there a Breaking Bad storyline you wish you'd done or wanted to do, I'm going to add, but didn't for a very specific reason? Wish you'd done...
Yeah. We didn't do
Is
it.
it only hindsight that allows such a thing?
No, we just had a lot of bad ideas. We had a lot of good ideas, and we didn't have room to put everything in.
Sure.
Some of the bad ideas, actually, I can't think of any. I'm sure we had plenty. I'll try to think of a good one. But we loved all our actors. But as a good example of that, we loved Betsy Brandt, who played Marie, Hank's wife. She is such a sweetheart and so funny and so talented. And we wanted. There was a stretch there where her character got kind of scared, and really for good reason, because her husband Hank was terribly wounded, and it looked like bad guys were out to get him still. And we had this thought at a certain point, and we played with it for the longest time. Excuse me. Where we wanted her to get really scared and get a gun, and then accidentally shoot the UPS guy when he came to deliver.
As you can see, just a horrible idea. That would have been great.
No offense to UPS. My brother Patrick works for UPS, so it wasn't anything against UPS. We just thought it would be. We thought it'd be fun. Fun is a weird way to put it. But we didn't not do it because we thought it was a bad idea. We just could never quite fit it in. So.
Right. Yeah.
But we always wanted to do more with her because she's so damn funny. She's wonderful.
I will say this, if I may, about the transition. We talked about briefly the sitcom idea, thankfully went away, of Better Call Saul. The transition from Breaking Bad to Better Call Saul, for the fans, as one of them, I will say it may be one of the most difficult passageways to get to the other side of, in terms of the level of expectations, the demands that you created, I'm sorry, in all of us for the same level of brilliance. It was a near impossible task, and I personally want to say, if I may, in front of these mostly strangers, that it's a series of miracles, quite frankly, more than the casting and the writing and the alchemy of that you and your team were able to rise to a level of those expectations and exceed beyond them. So thank you very much for this new show.
Oh, thank you.
Tell us about.
So much. Thank you.
Honestly, my expectations couldn't. I mean, to the point where it's just like, all right, calm down. Everyone, just calm down. It's not going to be as good, and that's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. It can't be. It can't be.
That's what we told ourselves too.
Yeah.
And all joking aside, I'm so glad we rolled right into it when we did, because if I had had 6 months off or a year off, I would have psyched myself out. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad we rolled into it. And one of the ways that helped was it won't be as good. I mean, we have wonderful people. We got wonderful actors. We got a great crew as always, but it just, it won't be. And that's just, that's liberating. That's
right.
And
give yourself that break. Well, I will say the astonishing achievement of the same sort of surprise I mentioned about Gus. We know he's going to die. How are you going to kill him in such a way that's just as surprising as if we didn't know? To me, is what has made me instant a devotee to Better Call Saul, because you've surprised me with
not only a side of the character that we didn't know anything about, but a constant learning curve into that world that he lived in prior, and making that week after week surprising and just fucking cool, if I may. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
You just finished season 2.
We finished shooting season 2. Now we're editing it, and it
comes out.
Peter Gould and I are cutting away with our wonderful editors, and we're just fine tuning the director's cuts. We got these great directors who all of them, to a man and a woman, gave us great shows, and we're just plugging away, and it comes out middle of.
April,
I don't know if it's been revealed yet when it's coming out.
Okay, sometime in the new year.
Sometime in the first quarter of 2016. Yes. Or maybe they have said it yet. I can't remember.
Sammy,
I'm fairly certain they have. I'm pretty sure it's like the beginning of April. I could be making that up, but I don't think so.
Definitely not April.
All right, that's just wishful thinking then.
February. Yeah.
Okay, February.
But I'm not. But
That's
There
the
you go.
best
You
way
just
to
got
get
2 bonus months.
Yeah, that's the best way to get it out of him, Sam.
I
is to
know,
come up
I
with the
know.
wrong answer, and then he's.
Nailed it.
If we've learned nothing, it's that you will
sledded me
correct
under a hot
people.
light there. That was well.
Nice
well
work,
played.
Sammy.
Thank
Just
you so
beautiful.
much.
April, we were all like, "What? That's
Yeah.
fucking
It's too
ridiculous."
long.
Well played.
Well played indeed, masterfully.
He has
Speaking-
a system.
Yeah, he does have a system, and it worked again. All right, Sammy, speaking of well played and games we love to play and to take our guest out of his comfort zone of being grilled over and over again, I want you to prepare a wonderful game, a chance for you to have a little more fun, if we may, Vince. Let's see if I can squeeze in one more question from the audience. What was a surprising reaction someone has had to your work? That could be more vague.
I saw a picture one time of I didn't meet the gentleman, but I saw a picture, and I think it was real, of a guy's calf that had my face tattooed on it. And I think it was real.
Let's hope it was his calf, by the way.
It's one of those things. I was like, God bless you. That is, you don't even know what to. I mean, honestly, it's one of the. You're like, I don't even know what to say to that.
Well, it was a picture. You didn't see it in person.
No, and maybe it wasn't real, but if it was,
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Well, wherever you are, sir, I'm honored.
Sir and or ma'am.
I think it was a guy. I could kind of tell.
I think
by
you
the
want to
calf.
think it was a guy.
Yeah,
I think we all want to think it was a healthy calf
it was
of a man.
Yeah.
Muscle tone.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thereby showing the best possible version of your face. You don't want a dainty little lady's
Yes.
calf there, do you?
No.
Come on.
No. Yeah. I think that one springs to mind.
Yes, I imagine it would.
That one. Yeah, that's got to be my answer to that. I would think. Yeah.
Sammy, please tell us what you've prepared.
Oh, I'm so ready to go. So since it is no small feat that you are widely considered one of the greatest television writers of the history of television, I have come up with a little game that has some of the other great writers. So this is a little game we're calling Simon, Sorkin, or Simpson.
Okay.
So here's how this works. So I have compiled...
Make sure this blocks my face.
Oh, perfect.
That's exactly what
Make sure it blocks everyone's face.
The last one is OJ?
No, that would be the work of Neil Simon, Aaron Sorkin, or Homer Simpson, you see.
That's good.
Oh, these are things written by...
Yes. So I've compiled a list of 8 quotes from the screen.
Okay.
And these were either written by
Sure.
Neil Simon,
Okay.
Aaron Sorkin,
Okay.
or uttered by Homer Simpson.
Uttered by Homer Simpson.
Thank you, KP.
Sure.
Okay, so it's 8, and
Tired of looking at
I'll
that
begin
guy.
reading the quote. And as soon as I'm finished reading, or rather at any time when I'm reading, if you think you know who uttered or who wrote it or said it, you ring in by saying your own name, and you're playing against Kevin on this.
Okay. Oh.
Yep.
And he doesn't want us both
and then
going, eh.
Okay.
Just say your name. I'll point to you. You'll have 3 seconds to say either Simon, Sorkin, or Simpson.
Okay.
Now I want to add, any and all inflections or line readings are my own.
Okay.
So don't be counting on...
They're trying to throw us off.
Yeah, this is not going to be the way you may have heard them the first time.
Okay.
Don't.
All right. Okay.
So you ring in, you get a question right, you get yourself 5 points. Ring in, you get it wrong, you lose 3.
Penalty for being wrong.
At the end of 8, if we don't have a winner, we have a tiebreaker. So here we go. Simon, Sorkin, or Simpson?
there some sort of prize involved? Should the
There
winner...
might be.
All right.
That's a good question, Kevin.
Well, I just thought
we're not playing just for kicks here. The winner, the winner of tonight's Simon, Sorkin, or Simpson will be walking away with one Misery Loves Comedy, directed by Kevin Pollak. The fantastic documentary, available for purchase many places online. But you don't have to purchase it should you win tonight's game.
Should I win?
If you don't win, by the way, it'll be in your gift bag.
Really.
All right, thanks for taking
So you are covered on this one.
Yeah.
Here we go. Simon, Sorkin, or Simpson.
All right.
You chased a dog and you beat a horse. You're stronger than you think.
Kevin. Simon.
That is correct.
Whoa!
Good
Any
job.
idea who said it? No? It was George Kellerman from The Out-of-Towners. The Out-of-Towners.
Okay.
Jack Lemmon. All right. Number 2. If you don't like your job, you don't strike. You just go in every day and do it really half-assed.
Vince.
That's the American way. Yes, Vince.
Homer Simpson.
That is correct. That is correct.
Did he ever technically sing that line?
He might have.
Yeah, that's from the Sherry Bobbins episode.
All right.
Sorry.
No.
It's like the only thing I know is like Simpsons and Disney.
You and I could play this game all day. Number 3. Facts are meaningless. You could use facts to prove anything that's even remotely true.
Vince. Aaron Sorkin.
Homer Simpson.
Oh,
And now we have the comedy portion of the game.
I actually have a bookmark that says that. I do.
It's a toss-up for the rest of us, however,
it's a
whether that was Aaron Sorkin or Homer
Homer
Simpson.
Simpson. When I was putting this together, I was shocked myself a lot of the time. Yeah. Number 4. You can't spend the rest of your life crying. It annoys people in the movies.
Kevin Sorkin.
I'm sorry, that was Neil Simon.
Oh.
That was Oscar Madison from The Odd Couple.
Someone in the audience knew that. Very memorable quote.
I
of
would've
his.
It's a
got
tie
that one
game.
too.
That's exciting.
Is it?
It is. It is. Number 5. First off, I'd appreciate it if you didn't throw my name around quite so
Vince.
much.
that's got to be Sorkin.
That is Sorkin. You knew he was in there
He says
somewhere.
first off
First
a lot.
off. First
Yeah.
off.
It probably happened while walking down a hallway, I'm sure.
2 people tracking. Yeah.
Number 6. I'm normally not a praying man, but if you're up there, please save me, Superman.
Kevin Homer.
That is correct.
Only because it's Superman he's
Yeah, I
praying
know.
to.
I know.
And I think I quote that one quite a bit.
And then there's that.
That line could have been on the newsroom. You don't know. Number 7. Oh. Well, if you strenuously object, then I should take some time to reconsider.
Oh, Jesus. I recuse myself.
Oh, Vince. Sorkin.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks for giving me that one.
I just really always wanted to say that.
Yeah, thank you. Reminds me of all those times to the airport when someone yells, "Hey, Weinberg!"
Now, for what it's
Always
worth, KP, if you ring in and get this 8th question correct, it's a tie game. So just putting that out there.
Okay.
Quote number 8. 37,000 policemen in the city of New York. Not one will come out in the rain.
Kevin Simon.
That is correct. We have a tie.
Okay.
Sorry.
Ooh, keeping it close. I like it.
Means it's not over yet.
I like it. How dare you. All right, this is it. Ring and you get it right, you win. Ring and you get it wrong, you lose. All my life, I've had one dream: to achieve my many goals.
Vince.
Yes, sir.
Got to be Homer Simpson.
That is correct.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Right.
Thank you. Awesome.
Tell me about the careful selection of the name Heisenberg, if you wouldn't mind.
You know what? We did not know that was going to take off the way it did. It just was kind of a throwaway line in an episode. I think it was our second to last episode of season 1, and it just seemed. It was an episode written by George Masters, one of our excellent writers, and it just. I think to all of us, it seemed like, and I think we discussed it in the room before we wrote the script, and it was kind of a throwaway. It just seemed like. What fake name would this guy give, being as smart as he is and his chemistry and physics savvy as he is? We did not know that would take off like it did, nor did we know that the hat
Available now at Gorin Brothers.
Exactly. that we put him in the very next episode, the final episode of season 1, written by Peter Gould, who's now my partner on Better Call Saul. We didn't. That was just kind of. It just felt like something he might do to look a little tougher in the sunglasses. That one completely floored us that it's now in the Smithsonian, or one of them, one of the couple that we had. It's that one we did not know would take off. So in other words, the hat and the name Heisenberg and the idea of an alternate identity, in a sort of Clark Kent versus Superman kind of vein, or other. Sorts of fictional kind of alternate identities. We didn't know that would take off like it did. We really didn't. So much of the stuff that people quote, like "I am the one who knocks," stuff like that. You just never see them coming. The lines that people find most quotable, which is always interesting as a writer.
Well, and also, it totally makes sense, quite frankly, that if you see it coming, then you've designed a catchphrase, and you should be arrested.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. And so much of it has to do with line readings that the actors do. I mean, there's so many lines I quote from, like Jackie Brown. I love that movie so much. Half of did pretty much everything Sam Jackson says in that movie. Just so quotable. And you look at it it's just great dialogue, but some of the most quotable lines are just like, you're like, I would have never seen that coming if I was Quentin Tarantino, that I want to quote that line or whatever.
Right.
Give us an example.
Just it's a non sequitur, and I can't do it like Sam Jackson does, but I always find myself saying it. Robert Forster, who we've worked with, who's a lovely man.
So great.
Such a great guy. He plays Max Cherry in Jackie Brown, and he is the bail bondsman. And he's taking down. It's going to mean nothing when you hear it, but it's like he's taking down Sam Jackson's information. He says Sam Jackson's character gives his address. Is that an apartment or a house? And he goes, "That's a house." And the way he says it, I just love. To me, I mean, that's maybe not everybody's most quotable line. Up there with.
I'm sure it is, Vince.
Up there with, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
No,
but
I know exactly.
I find myself saying it sometimes.
I know exactly, because he's taking great pride in telling him, "No, that's a house."
And he's like, the way he's putting a cigarette out when he does it, that's a house. I don't know.
I support it. I support this.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about those moments, and why it's great to hear that they're not by design. You put them out there.
Yeah.
But in terms of executing a design, you mentioned briefly about the 100 possible ideas of how to bring the series to conclusion. Mm-hmm. You always knew what the arc was. You built towards it. It had a life of its own beyond the initial plan. It evolved and the body count along the way, and then ultimately what I find a lot of times creatively, but also in life, there are no correct answers, just paths, just the ones we choose, and then you have to live with that. But in terms of a television series that people have attached so much of their time and all the choices of other forms of entertainment go away. This is the choice they've made, and now you've got a greater responsibility than let's go with our gut. You have to feel that, I assume, in the writer's room. But also, it is your instincts as a creator and writer that you follow that get you through that ridiculous path of those seasons. And is it, in the end, just a matter of, here are all the great options, here are all the great ideas, I've got to go with the one that hits me in the gut the strongest, because I do have to live with this forever
Yeah, it kind of is, but I would hasten to say it's not just me. We had 6 excellent writers in the writers' room, and then
How many shitty ones?
no shitty ones. That was everybody. That was we had these really
fall for it.
smart people, and then we had a writer's assistant, a guy named Gordon Smith, who wound up being a writer now, an excellent writer, who got an Emmy nomination last year for Better Call Saul. He was our writer's assistant that final year and a couple of years.
And that's
before.
got to feel great, by the way.
It does.
Right?
It feels great. I mean, I fired him because he got it.
Well, he had it coming.
Well, he got the Emmy nomination and I didn't.
Oh, nice.
It's a joke. I got to learn to tell jokes better. Everyone was like, shit.
No. We were hoping you. We were kind of hoping you did. That's a much better story, Vince.
Wonderful guy. He was my assistant. No, he was very much still there and still writing wonderful episodes. He got an Emmy nomination for his first episode of television he ever wrote,
It's not
which
even
was last
fair.
season, which if you saw Better Call Saul, no, it is fair because he deserved it and he's been working hard at it and he's crazy talented. It was the episode that showed Mike's backstory, Mike Ermitrat's backstory, where he did a wonderful job. Gordon Smith is his name. Was my point. He was our writer's assistant in the room. Then we had 6 writers. I think it was 6.
So there's a lot of
And it was-
ideas and a lot of
and
people.
The point is, it's a nice job being a showrunner because you don't have to be democratic about it. You can be a benevolent dictator or a not so benevolent dictator, and you can put your foot down at a certain point and say, "No, we're doing it this way." But my best days were days where I could make the other writers feel comfortable enough that they could say, "We really don't like that," and I got talked out of several things along the way, and occasionally everyone else would say, "We don't like that," and occasionally, once in a blue moon, I'd feel strong enough about it. I'd say, I really want to go this way. But I wouldn't just say, we're going this way. I would say, I want to talk through once more, as if we're in a jury, like a sequestered jury, where
Yeah.
you gotta, you're Henry Fonda and 12 Angry Men. You gotta talk it through. You gotta get everybody to vote yes, or
Turn
vote
them
for
around.
acquittal or whatever. But what's my point? I got off on a tangent.
Well,
But
just-
the point is, it was never just me. It was a lot of smart people who were very capable of talking me out of ideas.
So then, as a group, you get to a place where this version makes the most sense to the group. You're saying it was never
Yeah.
a matter of, you know what, guys, I've heard all the ideas. We're going to go with this one, and here's why.
I mean, I could have said, you know what, you guys are idiots, and I'm going this way. But I could have technically, but I knew I'd be making a foolish mistake if I did that, and so I allowed myself to get talked out of a great many bad ideas, and I'm glad.
Specifically
I
about
did.
the ending.
Well, at every step of the
Sure.
way, every episode, all 62 episodes from beginning to end. But the ending, a lot of it was we had this machine gun. We had planted 16 episodes before the final episode, 15 episodes before. We had this M60 machine gun that he had bought in the parking lot of a Denny's in the trunk of an old car, an old Cadillac. And I cannot tell you how many times in those final few months where I said, God damn it, can we just pretend that never happened? Just as a thought experiment, because not only did
He
we have
changed
to,
his mind.
yeah, he changed his mind, but we knew that we had to have a solid reason for him to purchase this M60 machine gun. He had to have a good target for it. It couldn't just be, I want to kill a guy really, really dead instead of just regular, garden variety dead. I got to cut him in half or something. They would have You got to have a reason to have a machine gun that spits out 10 rounds a second. It can cut through walls. You got to have especially if you're Walter White, who's a very thoughtful, pragmatic guy. He's kind of have a reason for this thing. And for the longest time, we didn't know what the hell he bought the machine gun for. And this is so stupid and such a dumb thing to admit, but we liked painting ourselves into corners. Using that as an example, we thought, hey, and talking about the thing we were talking about earlier, wouldn't a great teaser for the first episode of season 5 be that he buys a machine gun? And they're like, what does he use it for? We'll figure that out later. It's
You
God's
just
honest
love
truth.
the image and what it meant and what it said and what it might be.
We knew it meant drama.
Yeah.
We knew it meant drama. And then toward the end of the run, we're like, what does it mean? And for the longest time, we talked about, well, maybe he's going to save Jesse. Maybe, and it ultimately wound up being that. But I think we had an idea for a while there that Jesse was going to be on a prison bus. He was arrested. He was going to go into the system. he was going to go into a prison that was controlled by these white supremacist guys, Uncle Jack and his guys, because we saw Uncle Jack and his guys and his network in prison kill, was it 8 or 10 or 12 guys all in the space of 2 minutes in an earlier episode. So we knew, boy, if Jesse went to jail and Walt somehow had a change of heart and decided to save him, maybe during the transfer on a prison bus, he needs this machine gun to stop this bus. But then we thought, as bad as he is, we don't want to see a bunch of cops get killed. We didn't want to play that. We wanted to use a machine gun on the Nazi guys, on the white supremacist guys. So it was so much figuratively and sometimes even literally pounding my head against the wall. All of us just like, what if we do this? No, that's not quite it. What if we do that? It was misery.
Yeah.
It was because we didn't want to drop the ball. We didn't want a crappy last episode. We wanted people we felt such an obligation to the audience, and that made for a lot of painful days and weeks and months in the writer's room, but it made us work that much harder, and it made us not stop when it was, that's pretty good. What if we that's good enough. We never let it be just good enough. So.
Well, the sort of pressure from the success of the show became careful what you wish at some point. Every writer and creator of a television show wants everyone on board. You get it. You get what I'm trying to accomplish here. You care about these characters, the actors, everyone, the wonderful writers you mentioned. You want everyone invested. They become invested, and then it's, oh, shit. Now we've got to rise to, again, the level of the killing of Gus. And then you've got the series finale versus the season.
Yeah.
And the pressure there to accomplish that ridiculous goal that you're going to let somebody down. So accept that right away.
Yeah.
Right? X percentage is going to be, oh, fuck you. And then how do we get
That's
this
another thing we told
bigger
ourselves.
percentage?
Well, that is another thing we told ourselves. And it's to take the pressure off. And it was the same thing I was saying earlier with Better Call Saul. By the way, I hope that came across right. I couldn't be more proud of Better Call Saul, but you gotta find those steam valves where you can. And one of those going into Better Call Saul was it won't get that out of your head. Don't compare it to Breaking Bad. It's an apple and that was an orange and blah, blah, blah. And one of the steam valves, that final run of episodes was there are going to be people who don't like the ending, but just so long as we like the ending and we're rigorous as we can be and we do the best we can do, come up with the best ending we can come up with, then we can sleep at night.
That's all you can do. Yeah. And again, the thing about Better Call Saul, the invention of a whole new world, that was, I think, for me, the grabbing of my throat that said, you're not going anywhere. Your expectations have been met simply because I desperately wanted a whole new drug, and that's what was provided. So again,
excellent.
Congratulations and thanks. Some mystery time in the first quarter when Better Call Saul.
I think February.
Certainly not April.
February, not April. You don't have to wait that long. It's coming out in February, I believe.
Yeah. There's no end to the wonderfulness that is Bob Odenkirk
he's the best.
And Michael McKean. The combination of those brothers and what they went through in the first season and how we got to know each one of their journeys, as well as catching us up to where they are now, was sort of astonishing, quite frankly.
We got such a good cast on that show. Michael and Bob really, and you'll just see more of it in season 2. We got some fun stuff coming up in season 2. I'm looking very much forward to people seeing it. They really click as brothers. I don't know what it is with these guys.
Amazing.
They're really great. And we've got the lovely Ray Seahorn, who is so adorable and such a wonderful actress. We've got a lot more of her in season 2. I think people are going to love her. And, of course, more Patrick Fabian and Michael Mando. And, of course, the lovely Jonathan Banks, who is a lot more of Mike in season 2. I can't wait for folks to see it.
Great.
It's going to be
Great.
fun.
Thank you very much. Just another 2 hours of questions, if I can. It's very important to us that we're just the longest. It doesn't matter the quality. We just have to go on the record as being, oh yeah, that one. So there were some movies that you wrote that you, is that
you seem to have found such a place in the sun with these two shows. Is there anywhere in your mind that says, I just want to drift back into movies? I mean, I can't fathom it. The drama on television now is crushing most of the drama in films for me that I'm seeing, unless it's around this time of year when they roll out some really great
Movies
ones.
are wonderful, and I would like to do. I mean, I've written a couple of movies that got made. I would love to direct a movie before I'm done, before I'm retired or whatnot. But I don't have the drive I used to. In all honesty, I love
You don't need to.
television.
Please stay where.
I don't. Well, and movies are, but some of my favorite experiences with, have been movies. I mean, as far as filmed stories, I've loved both growing up. I love TV and movies, and some of my favorite stories came as movies. But it's a tricky time. There's just as many talented people struggling to get their good movies made,
Right.
As there ever have been. And there's just as many smart people. I mean, there's smart people running these studios. Who want to make good movies, I believe. But there's this, I mean, the business is arranged in such a way now that you can either make a $200 million movie or you can make a $2 million movie. And it just doesn't seem to be as much room in between for stories told for grown-ups. And they have all, in fact, most of them have all migrated to TV. And
It seems a
downloads.
greater opportunity, quite frankly, for a storyteller.
It really is, and if you go on a set, what I love about audiences like this, you guys know what I'm talking about. And you go on a set for a movie or a TV show, you can't tell. Someone has to tell you which is which. You're using the same cameras, you're using the same cranes, you get the same number of people standing around, you get the same craft service table. I mean, it's all, you're using the same visual language, you're using the same literal tools, and it's in the future, I mean, I love the experience of going into a big darkened theater and sitting there with a lot of folks and watching a movie unspool, at 24 frames a second with that specific flicker that kind of puts you in that daze, and that good daze you want to be in to drink it all in. But and that's never going away. But more and more, you're going to be able. You can sit at home and watch your favorite movie on a giant curved OLED screen, that's 70 or 90 inches across or whatever. And then after that, it's just going to be these goggles you wear where you're sitting in. You put them on, and you're sitting in the Chinese theater, surrounded by. I mean, the sky's the limit. You could be sitting there in this virtual space watching a giant screen, watching a great movie. You could be sitting next to Humphrey Bogart on one side and Jimmy Cagney on the other, and look behind you and there's, Carol Lombard or whoever. I mean, it's who knows where it's all headed. But there's not as, when you think about all these things, you realize there's not as much need anymore I don't feel, for me, there's as much creative need, artistic need to say, I got to make a movie versus I'm going to stick with TV. And TV, talk about dancing with the girl that brung you. It's been just a pleasure to work in TV, and they let me do what I want to do. And my experience with movies was unfortunately
Not creative freedom.
no, and it wasn't because I was working with bad people, and it wasn't because they were a bunch of idiots or Philistines. It's just a different system, and there's too much time. You have too much time to get it right, quote unquote, and you go through
Second guessing.
Yeah, and you rewrite after rewrite after rewrite. I can't tell you how many rewrites I've been through in some of these movie scripts that I wrote. A lot of them that never even got made, some that did, but you're just over and over, and it's just like being waterboarded. At a certain point,
We're going to read one of those scripts now. Sammy, you have your copy?
Yep.
The last question is a selfish one. We're Jamie and I, big, long-time devoted fans of the Twilight Zone, and in the research, it happened to show your love and devotion to
favorite show ever,
arguably the greatest written.
I think it's the most consistently well-written television series of all time, for sure.
Great TV show, and boy, I tell you, I wish, here's here for the Twilight Zone.
Well, X-Files clearly have followed so many of the traditions in terms of original writing, and also
Absolutely. I mean,
a bit of an anthology with this, recurring. A few cast members, of course, being the leads of the show, but being able to be the creature or the thing or the oddity of the week there was a sense of an anthology at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. I mean, so many great TV shows, not even remotely in the realm of science fiction or fantasy or horror, were inspired on some level by the Twilight Zone. If I had a time machine, I'd want to meet Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and all that. But man, I'd love to meet. I'd also use it for. I'd love to meet Rod Serling. He passed away just barely 50 years old in 1975. He died way too young, and he was. I would have loved to have been. There wasn't really a writer's room per se, I don't think, on the Twilight Zone, but I've read a couple books on him and on the way, a biography of him, a couple of them in fact, and on the way the show ran. And they, in Westwood, next to the old Hamburger Hamlet, which was the Hamlet Gardens there, the gardens on Glennon, which is now the Skylight Gardens, I think. That building there had an ice cream shop. I'm sorry, what? Will Wright's, that's it. Yeah, good job.
What are we having for him, Sammy?
Yeah.
We have a DVD copy of Misery Loves Comedy.
We're going to take that out of Vince's
Will Wright,
gift
good
bag.
job.
Right out to that man right there.
But it was before my time living out here, but it was my understanding, and this gentleman may know better than I, but that was their sort of, it was Serling's sort of impromptu writer's room, because he lived in the Palisades, but they were shooting over at the old, I guess the old MGM lot, which is now kind of, it doesn't really exist anymore, but what's, Sony and whatnot. And sort of the halfway point, I guess, was meeting at Will Wright's ice cream shop. And I just picture all these amazing writers like George Clayton Johnson and Richard Matheson and these amazing, man, to be a fly on the wall, to hear these guys talking and going through scripts and just to order an ice cream and sit,
Try to see each other through the cigarette smoke.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
you
that
have
doesn't mix well with ice cream, does
Do you
it?
have,
Cigarette
well, you'd be
smoke.
surprised.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite episode that comes to mind? That's really
It's hard to pick a favorite, but I always like to mention ones that aren't as well known.
Right.
I always mention Nervous Man in a $4 Room. That's a fun one. You like that one?
Yeah,
That's,
we love them all. but-
It's Joe Mantell. Is that the actor's name? It's really pretty much him by himself talking to himself in the mirror. And the visual effects for the time and for the money, which was, they had no money at all, are pretty good. But it's him, and what's the other guy? Was it John Denner? No, it wasn't. It was the other guy who's the bad guy, played the doctor in the episode Eye of the Beholder, the one who turns out to be a monster at the end. All the doctors and nurses are monsters, and they're trying to do plastic surgery on a woman who turns out to be beautiful, but she's horrified by her ugliness. That was the same guy who plays the bad guy mobster in this one. And it was just, you could tell it was a bottle episode. You could tell Serling and his producer were under pressure to get back on budget, so they shoot this thing in this one room. But it's just this great acting, great writing, and this actor, I think, was the guy who also in Chinatown has the most famous line in the movie. He says, "Forget it, Jake, it's Chinatown." I think that's this actor.
Wow.
I love that one. That's a fun one. A Long Walk, is that the name? The one with was it Gig Young when he is driving along on a business trip or whatever, and he has to pull over to get some gas, and he walks to his hometown, and he's back in time. That one, I choke up every time I see the end of that one, because he meets his father, and he and his father sit on the edge of this carousel, and his father says, "You can't stay." But is it really so bad where you're from?
Yeah.
His father now knows he's from the future, and he says, "So you know things that have happened?" And he says, "Yeah, Pop, I know." And you can tell without it being said that his father's dead,
Yeah.
in 1962, and this is 1939 or whatever. Just, God, what a wonderful show. It was, I'm sorry, I could ramble all day about
No,
Twilight Zone.
I'm just waiting to chime in.
Yeah, go ahead, chime in.
My favorite episode is The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, which is probably very well known. I also kind of almost the birth of Kodos and Kang, if you think of it.
That's right.
Kind of is. You're right.
And then, I think that this is a lesser known one, but I also love The Howling Man,
Howling Man's great.
Yeah.
which is just a shot all in a Dutch angle.
Yeah, that's one of that and The Third Man are the only two Well, one's a TV show and one's a movie.
Right.
The only two examples of Dutch angles that I
work.
can tolerate.
Yeah.
I fucking hate Dutch angles. But I,
When you see Michael McKean next, ask him about A Bride of Mummula.
yeah.
Chris Guest and Rob Reiner created this ridiculous show featuring these two-reelers with this comedy team from the 30s.
Yeah.
And so it was Saps at Sea and these ridiculous titles that were made in the 30s. And one of them was Bride of Mummula. It was a combination of the Mummy and Dracula, played by Michael McKean in this. I
gotta see this.
And the whole fucking episode is a Dutch angle, and it's just horrendous and horrible.
I gotta see this.
Vince, I can't thank you enough. And thanks again to everyone here at Largo the Cornet and all the folks here that showed up live. Jaime and Sammy, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And again to J-Mac for doing the research and Mike Dooman in the post-production. And we'll have more live shows.
Kenny's here too. Say hi,
Oh,
Kenny.
Dr. Chen, evil Dr. Chen. If you're a fan of the show, he's out there in the audience as well. But again, Vince, thank you so
Thank
very, very
you.
much.
Thank
and
you.
please
Thank
keep up the brilliant work.
Oh, God
Yeah,
bless you.
thank you.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Should never talk past the ending, but I got to ask you a question. Was I reading the internet right? Do you do the voice of Dwight Eisenhower in The Right Stuff?
I'm so glad somebody finally asked.
Is that true? Is the internet correct?
Well, yeah, I started as a stand-up comedian in San Francisco, doing impersonations pretty much the entire act. And so Philip Kaufman, also a great San Francisco creative person,
Yeah.
and so they were trying to figure out how to do Dwight D. Eisenhower. And they found an actor who looked exactly like him
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sounded a little like Minnie Mouse. And I thought, well, that doesn't work. So I was too young, of course, to know what he sounded like. They played a tape for me, and I did, in fact, do
God,
the
what a
voice
great movie.
of Dwight D. Eisenhower. And no one's ever brought it up before, Vince.
And you've got the line, no, no, no. I want test pilots.
Wow! That is spectacular.
Yeah.
Thank God you weren't around at the time, because there's no way I get the job having just heard that. First American in space is not going to be a chimpanzee. It was a little like Clark Gable, I'll be honest with you.
What a
but
great
yes.
movie. One of my all-time
love that
favorites.
film. I love that
All-time favorites. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have talked past the goodbye.
No. We're going to get another one out of them right now. Again, folks, thanks very much for coming out. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Vince.
Thank you.